Hi, I'm Alicia Nichols, and I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer in July of 2018. I underwent 25 treatments of radiation at Turo Infirmary. I'd like to give a shout out and a huge thank you to my surgeon, Dr. Colfrey, and also my radiologist, Dr. Harmon, and my oncologist, Dr. Zachariah. Well, I moved here from Alabama in February of 2018, and it was a week before Mardi Gras. And then I found out I had the cancer. I was diagnosed actually in July of 2018. So I'd only been here a few months. I didn't know anyone, and Dr. Colfrey was the first person they had sent me to, and he was really my rock. I mean, he was great, I have to say. Because, you know, my youngest daughter was pregnant back home, and he worked my surgery around that, and, you know, and everything. I mean, he allowed me to go back for the birth, come back, you know, have surgery, have radiation. He was great. He was magnificent. I would also like to thank my two daughters, Brittany and Sarah, for their love and support. I know it wasn't easy for them being 6 hours away from me. I would also like to thank my best friend of many, many years, Deanna DuPont, for all of her love and support and always being there for me. I would also like to thank my newest friend, Lisa, for her love and support and her friendship. Medical down here is fabulous. I was diagnosed early. They caught my cancer early. I was stage 1. It was still small. It was not an aggressive cancer. Therefore, you know, I had a little time to play, and I was able to go back for my granddaughter's birth. And yeah, I mean, even now, I still go to the doctors. They follow me up. I have mammograms very often. They're wonderful, all of them. And this is my story. I was born in New York City, the first and only daughter in a family of 4 children. When I was 5 years old, the family moved to a small town in Rutland, Vermont, where my dad had been raised. My grandmother was a huge influence upon me as a child and well into my teen years. She wanted me and my brothers to be brought up Catholic and attend private Catholic school, which we did. I was a very good student, but I was always fascinated by unusual things. I loved watching Star Trek and began watching it when I was only 6 years old. It made little sense to some people that maybe didn't understand it, but to me, it made perfect sense. I would always imagine what life would be like aboard that starship, as each week they took on new adventures. But soon I began having adventures of my own, when my grandmother would come and take me and my brothers out for the day in her station wagon. We would leave early in the mornings and be gone sometimes for the entire day. We never knew where we might end up or what might happen along the way. As I grew older, I started calling these the wacky adventures. My mother grew up in a large family of 12 kids and never saw the need for having any friends outside of the family when you had siblings. So I grew up a bit of a loner with only my brothers, 4 playmates. Therefore, I was so grateful to meet my best friend in the 1st grade, and she remained my best friend until the day she died in a tragic car accident just 10 days before Christmas in 1979, the year we both turned 19. A couple of years later, when I was 21, I married my childhood sweetheart in September 1981. Tragically, he was killed just 9 months later in a motorcycle accident. At the time of his death, my parents already had plans in place to move from Vermont to Alabama, where my mom was from. He was killed on June 12, 1981, and I moved with my family at the end of the same month to begin a new life and start over. With so many tragic losses in such a short time, I learned not to rely on anyone but myself. Eventually, I met and married my second husband in the middle 80s, and we had 2 daughters, Brittany and Sarah. and I lived a good life during those years. We worked hard and were able to take our children on adventures, such as cruises and trips to England, where my husband was from. From Florida to California, we all loved to travel and enjoyed many adventures along the way. 20 years later, and I found myself divorced after raising my daughters. In 2017, I began thinking about my future and starting out on yet another life adventure, this time in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, moving to New Orleans all alone and on my own at the age of 58 was a big undertaking, and truthfully, it was very, very scary for me. It had the ability to be a complete life changer, a make it or break it situation, and I deliberated about it for years before doing it. I was standing in my apartment in Aberville, Alabama one day in 2017, thinking hard about the move and all what it would mean, weighing the pros and the cons. And so I asked God to help me with my decision, and I clearly heard the words, "Trust me." I proceeded to go ahead with my plans. I moved to New Orleans in February 2018, just a week before Mardi Gras that year. I applied for health insurance, which I had not had in Alabama for the last 10 years, and got it immediately. I was diagnosed with cancer just months later, in July 2018. I sometimes sit and reflect on what would have happened to me had I not trusted God, had I not left Alabama when I did and gotten health insurance here. How would that have affected me? Would my cancer not have been found until it was too late or much more advanced? How would I have paid for the surgery and the treatments? God was certainly leading me down the right path. Today, I continue to still have adventures with my best friend, Deanna DuPont. Much like my grandmother, we set out on what we call a jaunt. Most times, we have no particular destination in mind. We take to the road for day trips, never knowing what we will encounter along the way or where the road will take us. You just have to trust in the knowledge that life is really just one big adventure.